Hey everyone, I'm Angie Miller, and coming up on this Strong Mind, Strong Body episode, I deep dive into your internal system, parts of you that hold multiple truths simultaneously, and how those parts are meant to protect you, but yet they can make you feel crazy. But better yet, I tell you how you can view them with compassion so that you can make decisions that serve you and help you conquer your goals. So after you tune into this episode, I hope you will like, follow, and subscribe. And by all means, be sure to leave a 5-star review because that helps me to keep bringing you this content. I'll see you in the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm your host, Angie Miller. Today, we are diving into something that might just revolutionize how you think about your relationship with fitness, nutrition, and wellness. Have you ever wondered why sometimes on Monday it rolls around and you're like super motivated, you're meal prepping, you're planning your workouts, and then all of a sudden Wednesday night comes around and next thing you know, you're stress eating ice cream or a bag of chips and you decide, I'm just going to skip the gym. Or maybe some days your inner voice sounds like this super robust, supportive coach. And then other days it sounds like this crazy drill sergeant who's having a really bad day. Well, today I want to introduce you to a concept that changed everything for me. And I think it's going to change a lot for you too. We're talking about the different parts of our personality and how when we understand those parts, it can transform not just your fitness journey, but it can transform your entire relationship with yourself. So I hope you grab a cup of coffee, a water bottle, whatever fuels you, and let's dive in. So I have a personal story to share about my training in internal family systems, which IFS is short for internal family systems, and how that training transformed my thinking and it expanded my lens of human behavior, which is why I was so inspired to share this with you today. So before I took my level 1 training in IFS, I used to struggle a lot when I had conflicting feelings, especially about big decisions. So the ones that take us from really comfortable, secure, and familiar, which is what we know, to uncomfortable, unfamiliar places, which is the unknown. And that can seem even scarier than what we know, even if what we know isn't working. So I would have this internal dialogue that would be not very nice. And I would be like, come on, Angie, you're decisive. Just make a decision already. Go for it. You'll figure it out. But I would get stuck and I would play all this like, what if this and what if this? And I would have a plan for a plan for a plan. And then I would just spin, spin, spin. And then I would be stuck in ambivalence. So I'm wondering, does that sound familiar to any of you when it comes to big decisions? Sometimes the bigger the stakes, the more we feel stuck. We can get so caught up in trying to determine the right choice that it can be paralyzing, especially because our brains have the capacity to see multiple sides of a situation. But our brain also says, but you have to get it right, right? So, and as a kind of recovering perfectionist and people pleaser, still recovering, I would get so caught up in trying to please others and make sure that everything's all right with them, you know, whether it was clients, family, whatever it was, that I found that my emotional state was so tied to how they were feeling, whether they were okay, what I could do to make them feel better, and it didn't really matter the cost to me. So I would judge myself harshly when other people weren't okay, and I would feel torn by not being able to make decisions or when I couldn't make everyone happy. But what I discovered through internal family systems really helped me a lot. Because what I really learned was all those conflicting emotions about big decisions, they're not a problem that I needed to fix. They were just parts of me trying to protect me. The perfectionist part of me wants to get everything right. She's trying to keep me safe from criticism or letting other people down. The people-pleasing part is trying to ensure that I'm loved and accepted. The part that sees multiple perspectives, she's trying to make sure that I don't miss something important. So instead of fighting these parts or judging them, IFS taught me to lead with compassion, to get curious about what all of my parts need. And curiosity is huge in IFS and in communication in general, because curiosity is judgment free. If you listen to my podcast regularly, you know I did an entire episode on curiosity because it's so powerful. IFS also taught me to recognize that all parts belong, even when they disagree with each other. It's really like both and thinking, which I also did a podcast about, where we can hold space for multiple truths simultaneously. And that's really at the heart of understanding human behavior. And it's exactly what we need when we're struggling with internal conflicts about health and fitness and well being. And here's the thing. Once I started understanding this about myself, I began seeing it everywhere with all my clients. And, I started recognizing like the client who quits her workout program right when she starts seeing results, or the client who's perfect with his nutrition for 3 weeks and then he has a bad day and he throws in the towel completely, or the wannabe client who can't seem to get started no matter how many times they say they want to change. So they're not lazy. They're not lacking willpower. They have just parts of themselves that are trying to keep them safe, even when safety can sometimes come at a cost of their goals. So let me break this down for you. Internal family systems teaches us that we all naturally have different parts of our personality. Think of it like you have a whole team inside of your head. And just like any team, sometimes the team gets along and sometimes the team is like not getting along. So I want to be clear though, because some of you might be freaking out and be like, whoa, I think you're talking about multiple personality disorder. I am not. I'm not talking about anything clinical. This is normal human psychology and we all have these parts. But I also want to make a disclaimer. I am trained in IFS therapy. I am not trained to teach IFS therapy to you. So I am in no way, shape, or form saying to you that at the end of this podcast, you'll be, licensed or certified to teach or to, practice IFS therapy. You won't. But what you will have is a good understanding of the concepts of IFS, and that will help lay the groundwork for better understanding of human behavior. It's kind of like a crash course in human behavior, if you will. So here's the thing about these parts. Let me give you some examples, and I bet you'll recognize them. So IFS talks about manager parts, and these are like your internal project managers. They're the voices that say, I have to meal prep on Sunday. I have to hit the gym 5 times this week, or I have to track every single calorie. Manager parts are all about control and prevention, because what they want is to keep you safe from failure or criticism or you not being good enough. You might have an inner critic manager part that says, I'm not doing enough. I really just should be working harder. Or you could have a perfectionist manager part that says, I have to get this right. Maybe you have a people pleasing manager part that says, I don't want to disappoint my trainer. So that's your manager parts, right? Those are your project managers. They want to keep you from failure or criticism. They want to make sure that you're good enough. Then you have your firefighters, and we all have these parts. So your firefighters are your emergency responders, and they show up when you're overwhelmed or you're stressed or you're triggered. And these are the voices that say, forget this diet. I'm just ordering pizza. Or I'm too tired to go to the gym. I'm just going to binge on Netflix. Or your firefighter might say, I already ate that cookie. I might as well eat the whole sleeve. You might recognize a rebel firefighter part when you say things like, I'm so sick of all these rules. Or you might recognize an angry protector firefighter who says, this trainer doesn't even know what they're talking about. I haven't lost any weight or gained any muscle. Or maybe you've got a firefighter part that wants to numb and says, I just need to binge or have a drink because I need something to take the edge off. And then last but not least, IFS recognizes that we all have exile parts. And our exiles are our vulnerable, wounded parts. They carry our deepest feelings. In fitness, it might sound like I'm not athletic, or you know what, I'm embarrassed in my body, or I always fail at this stuff. Or it could be the client who's like, I don't feel like I deserve to feel that good. A lot of times our exile parts are the parts that carry shame, like the parts that don't want to be seen at the gym, or the hurt child part that says, I was always picked last in PE. I have no business at the gym. Or it could be the fearful firefighter who's like, I'm too scared to try again because every time I do, I make a fool out of myself. The key with all these parts, whether it's a manager, a firefighter, an exile, is that none of them are bad. They're all trying to help you, even when it doesn't feel that way, even when it feels like they're getting in the way of your goals. At the end of the day, their goal is protection for you. So let me paint a picture with some scenarios that you might have lived through or you might have seen with your clients or your friends. So you've got the perfectionist burnout. So Sarah decides she's going to get healthy and her manager parts take over and she's like, I'm going to work out 6 days a week. I'm going to eat perfectly clean. I'm going to track everything. And for 3 weeks, she crushes it. And then life happens as it does. And she misses a workout. She eats pizza at a work event and boom, her firefighter part kicks in and she says, well, I already ruined everything. I might as well give up. And she stops exercising completely for 2 months. Scenario 2 is the success saboteur. So let's say you've got Mike and he's been consistently working out for 2 months. He lost 15 pounds and people are actually starting to notice and they're complimenting him. And then all of a sudden, just when everything's great, Mike starts canceling sessions and making excuses because maybe his exile parts are whispering, if I keep changing, people are going to expect me to maintain this forever. What if I can't? Or what if all this attention makes me uncomfortable? And then scenario 3 is the chronic restarter. So Lisa has started and stopped fitness programs 6 times this year. Each time she's full of hope and enthusiasm. Her manager parts convinced her that this time it's going to be different. You know, she's got the right trainer, she's got the right plan, it's going to be different. But her exile parts carry all this shame from her past, quote, failures. And they're constantly reminding her that she's just not the type who sticks to things. So I don't know if those sound familiar or if there was even a moment of truth or a moment where you went, yep, that sounds familiar. Maybe not the exact scenario, but some of the narrative. But here's what's happening. Again, these aren't character flaws. They're not lack of willpower. These are just parts of all of us that try to protect us from pain or disappointment or discomfort or failure. So our perfectionist manager parts want to avoid criticism. Our sabotaging parts want to avoid the vulnerability that comes along with change. And our hopeful parts are trying to overcome shame, while our wounded parts are trying to prevent more disappointment. Once we understand this and we understand this internal system a little bit more, it can really help us to make active change. So you have those 3 parts and you're thinking, okay, I get it. They're pulling me in all these different directions, but now what? Who's driving the bus? And that's a great question. So this is where the concept of self comes in. And in IFS, self is capital, all capital self. And that's basically your wise, calm center. That's when you're completely regulated. You're in your best space. Life is going well. Self is driving the car. Self is able to make good quality decisions. Self is that part of you who can hold space for all the other parts with curiosity and compassion. And when self is leading, you might say things like, I'm just noticing that I'm tired and that a part of me just wants to skip the gym. But I'm just curious about what am I really tired from? Am I physically tired? Am I emotionally tired? Do I fear the gym today? Is there something that's holding me back? Maybe I actually do need rest. Or maybe there's a part of me that's just trying to protect me. So when self is leading, you notice that your lens is longer and wider. You have greater perspective. You have more compassion toward all your parts, and you're not so condemning and judgmental toward the parts who are trying to protect you. So instead of fighting with yourself or forcing yourself through willpower, you become more curious. And you might say things like, what's this restraint part trying to protect me from? Or how does this perfectionist part, what do they need to feel safe? So, or maybe last but not least, how do I honor my desire to be healthy and my need for flexibility? Because really, that's kind of key. We all want to make these decisions for active change, but we need to be a little bit flexible on our journey because if we're not, we can get really caught up in not being perfect at it, and then that can set us back 10 steps. But if we're more compassionate and flexible, we're more likely to get to the finish, just maybe not at the pace we thought we would get there. So, I don't know, take a pause for a minute, grab a drink, process this, and then maybe the next question that I think we can all ask is, okay, Angie, but how do I use this in my daily life? Can you give me some practical tools? Because this is a lot to take on. And keep in mind, my IFS training lasted half a year. So again, this is just a bird's eye view of some concepts about your inner parts, not because you're going to be certified or qualified to practice, but because you'll have a better understanding of your internal system and you could lead with more compassion toward your clients and yourself. So how do you use this in your daily life? Number one, notice the language and kind of start paying attention to your inner dialogue. So when you hear yourself saying shoulds or have tos or musts, that's probably your managers. Shoulds are shame. Your managers are shaming you and they're telling you you have to be perfect. When you hear things like screw it, or I can't help it, or I already messed up, whatever, what's the point? Probably a firefighter ready to hose everything down and throw in the towel. And then when you hear, I'm not good enough, I always fail, I don't deserve this, that's probably an exile. So instead of getting critical, how about getting curious? Instead of judging, remember curiosity is huge. So if you find yourself wanting to skip a workout, instead of forcing yourself or beating yourself up, again, what's this part that wants to skip this workout worried about? Or, am I actually tired? Am I overwhelmed? Am I avoiding? And then invite curiosity versus judgment, right? Maybe you are actually tired. Maybe you do need to skip the workout, and maybe for today, that's okay. So here's a simple process, and I'll call this the check-in questions. But this is also part of what IFS uses. So the three parts are find it, focus, and ask what it needs. So stay with me here. So let's find it. When you get all anxious and you get all judgy about yourself, the first thing is just, where do you carry tension in your body? That's the easiest way for me to explain find it. So if you're getting all judgy toward yourself, some of us get a headache. I get headaches bad. Some of us get stomach aches. Turns out I also get those too. I don't know if you do, right? I carry it in my gut and my head starts to hurt. My belly hurts. So find it. Like, where do you carry tension? If you notice you're starting to get a headache or your stomach's starting to hurt, that's probably, your body keeps the score. That's probably where you're carrying all this tension from your parts kind of fighting with each other, if you will. And then focus on that part. So can I get curious about it without trying to change it? Let me just step back for a minute. If you tell somebody something and then they immediately go into fix it mode and they immediately start telling you what to do, I don't know about you, but I back off. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just trying to open up and vent here. I didn't ask you to fix my life, right? I didn't ask you to tell me what is best for me, because if I don't know what's best for me, you sure don't know what's best for me. And so it's more like you not trying to solve you, if you will, right? Like just being curious and not trying to be that friend who's trying to tell you what to do. Just be a friend to your parts and be curious about them. Like, what is it about the gym that I fear so much? Or what is it about my client that makes them self-sabotage? And these are questions that you can ask them too, right? Some of the questions that I've already given you, you can guide your clients with these questions and just invite them towards self-discovery instead of you going right for solutions. We all know the solution. Okay, guess what? The solution is I should eat well and I should work out. Yep, I know all that. But I didn't ask for solutions, right? I just asked to have a better understanding of my system because I already know the solution. So, and then last but not least, after you find it, you know where you carry tension, you're kind of trying to get curious about it. Now ask what it needs. What does this part need from me right now? I've had many days where I backed out of a workout because I've decided that what that part needs is rest. What it really needs is to drive down the nervous system and just rest. And with compassion, not judgment, just stay away from the gym, stay away from the hard driving workouts and rest so that emotionally I can feel stronger and better for the next day. So again, simple tools. Number one, notice the language in your internal dialogue. And then number two, do the check-in questions. And then number three, just practice shifting your internal dialogue. So have some conversations with your parts. I know it's going to sound wonky and weird, whatever. But instead of being like, God, I hate it when I get anxious, or, oh, I hate it when I get down, or, oh, I hate it when I talk myself out of a workout. How about just, hey, anxiety. I know you're worried about going into a new class all alone. Okay, but what are you afraid might happen? Or, just listen. You might be surprised at what comes up. If you don't do it well with yourself, I guarantee you'll do it well with your clients. I assure you, you will. You could just say, what is that anxious part worried about in coming to the gym? And then your client's going to be able to say, well, I'm worried because I don't feel like I look good in my fitness clothes, or I'm worried that other people will look at me. Clients know what they're anxious about, but a lot of times we don't ask them. And so they don't have the opportunity to really be vulnerable. So then, sometimes that internal dialogue, we're afraid of judgment, we're afraid of failure, and we're afraid of being uncomfortable. It's as simple as that. We all have those fears. So the next thing you can do to bring this stuff to life is just honor multiple truths. Again, I did a whole podcast episode on both and. So it's okay to want to be healthy and to demand some flexibility along that journey. It's okay to be committed to your goals and to also need rest days. You don't have to choose sides. It doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to work out 6 days a week or I fail. And instead of, I should push through this workout even if I'm exhausted, how about just simple things like part of me wants to honor my commitment to work out, and part of me recognizes that I need rest. How do I honor both? And maybe that's when your system says go to yoga or, take a breathing meditation course, right? So again, I did a whole podcast episode on both and thinking, because I do think it's really, really important, especially in our world today, that we can hold multiple truths and perspectives and not think that our way is the only way. And when our mind gets very judgy toward other people, chances are it's judgy toward us. Trust me, the most judgmental people out there are judgmental toward themselves. I assure you. Okay. And then last but not least, just reframe self-sabotage. So when you catch yourself in what feels like self-sabotage, just pause and ask, what am I trying to protect myself from? Like, what is this bag of chips trying to protect me from? What is this chocolate trying to protect me from? Maybe skipping the gym is just protecting me from the vulnerability of trying and failing. Maybe the food binge is protecting me from sitting with difficult emotions. And also, here's something that I think could change your relationship with failure. What if self-sabotage really isn't self-sabotage at all? What if it's actually viewed as protection? So next time you see a client engaging in self-sabotage, instead of being like, that's self-sabotage, why'd you do that? How about just saying that's protection? Your system is protecting you from something. Let's figure out what it is. So when someone quits their fitness program right when they're succeeding, it's probably because their system is afraid of change. Or it's afraid of the vulnerability or the pressure, of maintaining results, or the discomfort of being seen differently. The thing is, I've had a lot of clients and a lot of students over the years who self-sabotage because of those reasons. Change comes with expectations. If you lose weight and your client loses weight and all of a sudden everybody starts to notice, people are looking at them and they're not used to that new body and all that attention. That can really put them in an uncomfortable place, and you might find them backsliding. You have to get down into the nitty-gritty of what it is that their system is protecting them from. And then maybe when someone who goes all or nothing, maybe that part just wants to control outcomes. And then there's another part of them that is just so sick of the rigidity, right? Because I guarantee you, every person that you think is, quote, controlling, they also have a part of their system that's exhausted from trying to control everything. So when you start to see behaviors as protection rather than failure, it will change your approach and it will help you be curious instead of judgmental. So here's a quick thing for you. Maybe put on a sticky note. Instead of what's wrong with me or what's wrong with my client, how about what is this trying to protect me from? Nothing in the world feels worse than asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Oh, what a right? What a terrible thing to say to yourself. Would you say that to somebody else? I hope not. Right? So it's just more like, what is this trying to protect me from? So in closing, I just want you to know, if I'm the first person to tell you, you are not broken. Your clients are not broken. And those around you are not broken. We are not toys that need to be fixed. We're human and we're complex creatures who can hold multiple truths simultaneously. When we approach ourselves and others with curiosity instead of judgment, we can learn more about our internal experience and we can develop deep compassion and understanding for our struggles and then the struggles of those around us. You are a multifaceted human. You have lots of different parts and they all want good for you. They just have different ideas about how to get there. It's kind of like a family. Everybody's got a different idea about where to go on vacation and how to spend their time, but everybody has good intentions. So to create internal harmony, the key is that we need to learn to lead with self, with wisdom and compassion. So that's all for today's episode of Strong Mind, Strong Body. If this resonated with you, I hope you'll send me a message. You can email me at angiemillerwellness.com or catch me on Instagram at Angie Miller Fitness. Remember, all your parts are welcome in this journey. So until next time, be strong in mind and body. Thank you for joining.